Vice President, Ohio Middle Level Association. Really appreciate you joining us for our virtual professional development session. We are recording tonight's session, so we had right around 100 people who signed up, and so we will be sending out this recording to those who signed up and who weren't able to join us. Just a couple of things before I turn things over to Meredith, who will introduce our OMLA Team of the Year. First of all, we just want to thank you if you were able to join us at our last state conference. It was a great event held in Columbus, and we're really looking forward to our next state conference. Will also be in Columbus, but we will be celebrating our 50th year, and we will have a keynote speaker of John Gordon joining us. So hopefully you will be able to sign up for that and join us in Columbus. It's in November, I believe, this next year on the 10th and 11th. In between now and our state conference, we are going to have many regional events in your region. And so be looking for that information coming out in addition to these virtual professional development sessions. Our next one will be held on January 19th and will feature Missy McLean. Missy joined us at our state conference, and she'll be talking a little bit about, again, how do we support kids in this traumatic environment that they came out of, and how do we continue to support one another as we move forward. So with that, we'll get right to it. And Meredith, do you want to introduce our OMLA Team of the Year?
Thank you, Rob. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. The teachers on the Team Fiesta and Team Whisk Takers in grade 8 at Cloverleaf Middle School have a philosophy of creating a school environment that enhances students' skills of mathematics, language, arts, science, and social studies, but also skills of self-advocating, organization, and prioritization, and adapting to life's challenges. This team thrives on the ability to think outside the box. The 2020-2021 school year provided a blank canvas for them. Team Fiesta and Team Whisk Takers were teaching out of 5 double-wide trailers located on the back doors of Cloverleaf Middle School, where the students were stationary while they moved around. They were given a situation that many would view negatively, but this team turned this situation into an immensely positive experience. 10 teachers, 2 student teachers, and 3 paraprofessionals embraced the idea of the communal classroom and did not allow the overlapping of spaces to hold them back. Each day they spent the last 30 minutes of their team time groups. This allowed teachers to provide various interventions based on student needs. Interventions included discussion with the guidance counselors, focus groups, a passion project, and targeted interventions. The culture within this super team is that they take care of their own. The teachers have a can-do attitude and are flexible to meet students where they are and help them grow and succeed. So with that, our Team of the Year, I would like to turn it over to you to share all your goodness with us.
Thank you very much. I don't even know if my speakers work. Okay, so first of all, I want to say thank you to Jack Burkmeyer, because without Jack Burkmeyer, we would not be here. Maybe. Actually, we put a link in the chat to our super team slides. This is from the presentation that we did last year with Team of the Year, but when we presented at OMLA a couple years ago, we found what was really effective for us was we had a Padlet going, and as people threw out questions, we addressed those questions. So if you are on the Google Slides, the second slide is a Padlet. So if there's something you wanted us to talk about, then go ahead and throw it on that Padlet, and we'll either respond to it there, or all of us can respond to it here. So does anyone want to say anything besides me?
Well, I think we could go through and introduce the team if that would help. So I'm Andrea Riley. I'm one of the intervention specialists, and then I'll pass it to Elizabeth Mag.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Mag, the intervention specialist on Whisk Takers. Melissa.
Hello, I'm Melissa Beccari, the ELA teacher on Team Whisk Takers, and I'll pass it on to Erin.
Hi, I'm Erin Schultes, the ELA teacher on Team Fiesta. Monica, you're up.
Hi, I'm Monica Borsani. I'm the 8th grade science teacher on Team Fiesta, and I will pass it to Charlie.
Hi, I'm Charlie Kellner. I'm on the Whisk Takers, and I am the other 8th grade science teacher, and I'll pass it to AJ.
Hi, I'm AJ DeVito. I'm the 8th grade math teacher on the Whisk Takers. I'll throw it to Julie just so she could give another introduction.
I'm Julie Gunkelman, and I teach 8th grade math on Team Fiesta. And I'm going to throw it to Heidi Chapman.
I'm not sure she's on.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to throw it to Brian Schaefer.
I'm Brian Schaefer. I'm the 8th grade social studies teacher on Team Fiesta. And I don't know where Heidi's at yet. I just got a text that said she's struggling to get in.
Yeah, I got the same text from her. So I guess we're not exactly sure exactly what people want to hear from us tonight, but the one thing that I think makes us different than anybody else is we totally embrace our open schedule. We have roughly, I think, 4.5 to 5 hours of the day that is core time. And we are blessed with a principal who says, that's your core time, do with it what you want. So while we have regular scheduled classes, we do so many different things with that time, always acknowledging that people need their time in class and giving time for that, but at the same time, seeing what we need for kids. So I'm going to throw it over to the science teachers and have them talk to you about how we do our innovation week.
I'll start us off. So Innovation Week is basically a week-long, kind of like a science fair, but we're trying to encourage a little bit deeper thinking we want the kids to make something better. So it doesn't have to be science related, but it can just be anything in their life that they see there's room for improvement. So we take an entire week just to dedicate to this Innovation Week, and the other teachers on both of our teams are very great about letting us tweak the schedule and basically make the week crazy. We can have the entire afternoon for our students to just work on Innovation Week stuff while we go through 30-minute classes in the morning. So we're not losing any time. We're still getting the students to all 4 of their classes throughout the day. We're not interfering with any essentials classes like art or music, but we still can benefit from all of this extra time for their Innovation Week projects. Charlie, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
I don't think I have too much to add. Just the biggest thing that, like, what's super helpful when we go to do our Innovation Week is our teams. Like, they're so flexible and they're open for anything. We can throw anything out. We can say, hey, the day before, hey, we actually need 2 hours for these kids to finish things up. And everybody's like, hey, that's fine. They throw their hands up and they say, we'll do 20 minutes of class and that's good to go. So I think the biggest thing that also makes us unique is the flexibility, that we all work well together and we respect each other's core time, but also know that, like, what we want to do is best for kids. So.
And one thing that we did with our schedule this year, we just picked this up at OMLA actually a couple weeks ago, is we have now put in a testing period. So we have found kids test best in the morning. So we have rearranged our schedule so they test, we give them a 45-minute-ish testing period that they might need in the morning. It has helped with we have limited space in our building and we were running out of room for small group sessions. So it helps with that we're not spread out throughout the whole building, and all of the kids test in the morning, and then we just readjust our schedule so that we still have all of our core classes throughout the day, but all of those kids have already tested. ELA, do you guys want to talk about our exit interview?
Yeah, so we have a large career readiness unit that a lot of the subject areas actually contribute to, but ELA kind of takes the brunt of the preparation for what we call exit interviews. So exiting 8th grade and entering high school. So really working on some of those skills to prepare for the real world. So all throughout the year, the students work on a Google Slides portfolio where they compile artifacts or anything that applies to what they've achieved that year, whether it's academic or extracurricular. And all of the teachers are able to participate. So it's great for the kids to interact with teachers that they don't always see. And then when we do the alternate schedules, sometimes the students can interact with kids from the other teams. But basically, these exit interviews take place in the spring, and we connect this to events throughout the year. So in December, we have Career Day, where all of the grades in our building are able to attend different presentations from either families or parents or local business professionals who come in and present about a career. And then oftentimes we invite those professionals back toward the end of the year to actually conduct interviews with our students. So it definitely applies to the real world and things that they'll need. And it's just very helpful to have all of the teachers involved and really work on that teaming together.
Yeah, and pre-COVID, we had the kids kind of do like a handshake lesson where they had to practice shaking hands, making eye contact, introducing themselves and things like that, because as we know, some middle schoolers can be a little bit awkward. So having them practice that, and in the hopes that when they do meet their interviewer, they would be able to successfully execute a handshake and a eye contact. And we also ask them to dress professionally as if this is an actual interview. So sometimes there's a little pushback. We have to really kind of encourage the students to do that. But all the interviewers really get a kick out of it too. Like they always give, tons of positive feedback about the fact that, like these students do a good job of answering, questions that they can't really prepare for because it's so conversational. So it is, it's helpful, it's beneficial. It's not only, having them do work in the content area, but it's also giving them some life skills that will obviously, translate into high school and beyond. And then I think that something else that I don't know if someone said it already, but and I saw Jack commented it in the chat there, is that one of the things also that I think makes us successful is that we do trust each other. So if one of us comes to the team meeting with this like crazy idea, we kind of all work together to figure out how we can execute it, and we try it. And if it doesn't work, then we say okay and move on, or try to tweak it and do it again. But I think having that trust there, and just knowing that everyone is going to be all in, if we're going to try something new. Because obviously, if you just have one person who's not going to contribute or who isn't going to buy into it, then it's not going to be as successful. So I think that's a huge help for all of us, is that we just have that trust with each other. And if someone brings an idea, we're willing to explore that and see how we can make it work.
Hey, Erin, can I interrupt? Could you talk a little bit how you develop that trust? Because I think, many of us have been on teams that wasn't there. And I know it doesn't just happen by accident. So, what are some of those things that you guys did intentionally to make sure that you were solid on that and had that flexibility, which I think is absolutely wonderful that you are articulating?
Yeah, I think it's hard to kind of put into words, because I don't really think it was anything that we did intentionally. A lot of us like to fly by the seat of our pants or we'll like spring an idea and just be like, I just thought of this 5 minutes ago. Let's see if we can roll with it today. So I think it's just because we've, worked all of us have worked in the district for a number of years, and we've worked in the middle school together. So I think it's just like when you try one thing the first time, and whether it's successful or not, as long as you support one another, it's a little bit easier to then attempt something else and then go on from then on. But yeah, I don't think it's really been anything intentional, because honestly, we've kind of changed over the years. Initially, Heidi was on Team Fiesta before we were technically Team Fiesta. Brian was in 6th grade. Charlie was in 6th grade. Monica was in 7th grade. So we've kind of over the years have come together. Gosh, what is it, guys? Maybe 4 years that we've all been together now.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I think that you just kind of build that trust little by little. It's like, as I said, if you just, pitch something and everyone's willing to try it, and if it works or not, you just support one another and then, try something again.
We also started out really small. The changes that we made to our schedule were a little bit more basic to start. We would do like the block schedule where if I had a science lab that was going to take a little bit longer, I would take 2 hours. And so I would have my students for 2 hours, math would have their students for 2 hours, and then we would flip-flop that with the opposite kids the next day. So we started with little things like that. And I think that helped us build that trust. And then we started getting a little bit more risky with our schedule changes. And we just, over the years, like Erin was saying, we've just kind of built it up to where we can, in 5 minutes, throw something together. And we know that, you know, if it flops, but that's okay. We have that, like, I don't want to use the whisk takers, but we do, you know, we have that whisk taking theme, I guess, and we just kind of roll with it. And it's just been built up from those small little changes that we started with.
And I think another thing to add to that as well is that this whole idea of being a super team is somewhat new over the last couple of years, because we really were Team Fiesta and Team Whisk Takers. And then we just started saying, hey, we meet as a team 3 times a week. So why don't we meet as a super team 1 time a week? And then last year, when we were in our unique situation where we were teaching out of the double wide trailers, I, as a whisk taker teacher, was also teaching Fiesta students because the students were stationary, teachers were rotating. So we learned, like, even though we're Team Whisk Takers and Team Fiesta, these are all of our kids. So we started really taking off with the super team and working together. And it was just very fluid, and it just happened over time. So I think we started building that foundation a couple of years ago. But last year was the year when we really solidified some of that with our unique situation of how we were teaching.
And I think last year too, as Melissa was saying, when we were in these double wides, there were times that you had to teach both sides, but most of the time you had a teacher on the other side. So for example, AJ and AJ is brand new to us last year. So he was thrown into this craziness where we had already decided that we were going to super team all year. And here you go, AJ, hope you like us, because this is the way it's going to be. But I think that really helped us solidify our, I don't know if it's a need to super team from here on out, but I was always co-teaching with my counterpart from the other team. So we were able to get to know each other and how we work. And we even did things last year because of that super teaming where if he was really passionate about teaching it one way and I was really passionate about teaching it another way, we flip-flop the kids. And that's kind of opened the door for us this year. I also want to comment on the flexible schedule that somebody put on the Padlet. If students need a 2-hour block to work on a project, we typically will, the way that our schedule works with lunch in the middle, we would do all of our academics in the morning and half-hour rotations or whatever time allotment we have. And then in the afternoon, we would have that 2 hours where we would have the science teachers free. Someone would be covering them so they could go answer questions, but everybody would still have their core class. Like, that's an important part to us, that even when we do these crazy things, that if you want to meet with your core class, we make sure that you can meet with your core class. And I think that's been important when you say develop that trust with each other. We all value what each person teaches. Even though we know math is the best, I value language arts and science and all those other things too. No, I'm just kidding. And then I think that trust comes from also, we have fun in teams sometimes. Sometimes we do crazy, getting to know you kind of things. And we just have to, I shouldn't say we have fun in team. Sometimes we always have fun in team, but sometimes it's more important to like just get to know each other and what makes you tick. And we'll take 10 minutes to say, what's your favorite song? What's your favorite meal? What's your comfort food? And I think we know each other really well. And we have a group text that blows up all day long too. So
I'm going to piggyback off of that, Julie, because we had to do a couple of virtual Google Meets last year for staff meetings, and going off of the having fun and making things a challenge, which we'll get into our team challenges eventually. But at one of our staff meetings last year, because we were teaching out of trailers on the Google Meet, there was the trailer background. So we made it a little game to see if the other teams and grade levels or administrators would notice that all of the 8th grade super team had the trailer background. So we just really try to have fun as middle school teachers and not take things too seriously.
I don't know if do we want to talk about the challenges now, or do any of the people who are here want to know more about our flexible schedule? Or I can't access the Padlet, so I don't know if anyone's typing anything on there. But I
There's
think
not
too,
much going on yet.
okay, and I think the students just appreciate the fact that we're not necessarily like locked into a regular schedule. You know, there's been schedules that we try and the students really like them, or there'll be schedules that we try and the students don't really care for them. There's also been situations where in some years we've been able to flip flop, like if students have math and science in the morning, then the second quarter we might flip flop it so they can have that in the afternoon, or even if it's just like for testing and stuff like that. So I think the students like that we try to keep things fresh, and it kind of keeps them on their toes as well.
There was a question just put on here, how often do we run that alternate schedule and change things around? And that all depends on need. We do have to work with, we have some other intervention specialists who have students on our team that we have to make sure that we work with them. But for example, we have to do MAPS testing a couple times a year, and so we do it for MAPS testing. We do it for when we have the innovation week. We do it for a testing schedule. We wanted to, we have a book study for Who Moved My Cheese, and we wanted to do an activity to kick that off last week. So on last Friday, we did a alternate schedule where we had all of our academics in the morning so that we could kick off the book schedule in the afternoon. We do team challenges against each other. So at the end of the quarter, whoever wins that team challenge gets a fiesta, and then we'll do that alternate schedule for that day. Who wants to talk about challenges? Team challenges, not the challenges of being a super team. And there are challenges of being a super team. Like, we'll be honest, there's sometimes that, you know, we're like, I don't agree with that. But we work through it. I think we're close enough now that we're like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, I mean, I think our team challenges stem from when did we get teaming back? When was that? How many years ago?
I think 4.
So because our levy kept failing and cuts kept, you know, having to be made, they took teaming away. And then after years, they finally brought it back. And so we were obviously excited to have teaming back. But the first couple of years of teaming, we kind of let the kids choose the name that they wanted to be known as throughout the course of that school year. But then it was kind of like, well, it wasn't a lasting identity. And so I think it was actually when our current principal came, was it Chris who said that we should come up with that? Yeah, so it was when our current principal came as assistant principal, she really kind of challenged all of the teams to come up with a strong identity that would last year after year. So then that way, when kids are, you know, seniors in high school, they could be like, oh yeah, I was part of Team Fiesta or Whist Takers or whatever. So once we kind of each developed this idea of Team Fiesta, and we have like Fiesta as an acronym. So we have F representing friend. Let's see if I can remember anything. I is going to be integrity. E is extra. We expect the students to put in the extra work or go the extra mile. And then S is to self-advocate for themselves, T is trust or truth. And then A is, who can help me? I'm blanking right now because it's almost my bedtime. But anyway, so we came up with this idea that then we were going to have this like Team Fiesta, and like the kids would get awards based on like those qualities and characteristics that they displayed. And then Elizabeth Mag on the Whist Takers is a fabulous baker. And so they kind of like rolled with that and taking risks, and so whisks. And so then we came up with that whole idea, and the kids really embraced it, and they would try to sneak into, you know, like classrooms and steal, you know, tacos from our rooms or whisks from their rooms. So because the kids got really into it, that's when we really started to, thank you, attention to detail. Yes, that's what the A stands for. So when the kids really got into it, then, you know, it helps create that identity because they were really proud of being part of Team Fiesta or the Whist Takers. But yeah, I think every week we come up with challenges, like, and a lot of times the challenges that we come up with are, again, based on a need that we see. This year, our kids are struggling with following directions. So almost every week we have come up with various directions challenges. So one time, Melissa and I on our Google Classroom, we posted a link, and next to the link, it said all students check this link to see if your name's on the list. And when they clicked that link, it took them to a Google form that they just had to fill out saying that they, you know, got to the directions challenge. And it was amazing at like how few students would do that. So then social studies put a directions challenge on their next week for their test, so on and so forth, just trying to get them to pay attention to those things that we're trying to teach them. Communication through email had been a challenge. So there were a couple times where we would send emails out to the students and tell them they had, till the end of the day or the end of the week to respond to us. So we really do base those challenges, a lot of them, on a need that we're seeing. We've also gotten the principals involved where they would come in, and if they would come into my room for language arts, they would look at the kids for their time on task, for their behavior. And then if they came into my room, then they would also go into Melissa's room to see how they were behaving in that language arts class. So we get them involved. We get essentials classes involved, especially if essentials like music and art, if they're saying that they're seeing, poor behavior or something, we might ask them to, give us ideas for challenges so that we can incorporate those. Because obviously we don't just want our kids to be, good students and good people in our classrooms. We want them to display, proper qualities and characteristics all through the building. And so a lot of the times our challenges are geared towards that, but we'll have fun ones too, like, Flannel Friday or Colt Gear and stuff like that. If we have Spirit Weeks, we'll count those. I'm not sure if anyone else has anything to add about the challenges.
Well, our current challenge, and if somebody has some suggestions on this, is getting kids organized and writing down what they need to do each night. So we do an assignment tracker every day that we fill in for them. That's it's just a Google Doc. They can look at it, see what they have to do, but all they're doing is reading it, if they're reading it. So we made them this week, one of the challenges, you have to come up with what you have to do each night, and you need to fill it in yourself. A couple years ago, we had agenda books. I think we got away from that last year because there wasn't a lot of homework given because they were on a computer all day at school. So if anyone has any great suggestions on how to make sure kids are organized, we'll take them.
Additionally, for some of the academic ones we do, it might be like a test score accuracy. So each science teacher would calculate the accuracy on like a vocabulary quiz or something along those lines. Or it may be missing work. So that's something that we struggle with too, the organization and missing assignments. So oftentimes we will give the kids a week or whatever that increment may be for them to get their missing work turned in. And then sometimes we also just do silly ones since we're trying to keep that idea of teaming and working together. Like we may all wear a certain color or wear something and just see if the kids pick up on it. So really the challenges are a wide range of either something that's a need at the time or something that is just a little bit fun and goofy.
I want to comment on, somebody was asking about the testing period. Do we all try to test on the same day? Actually, we don't all try to test on the same day. We try to test on different days. But today there's a social studies test. So instead of them doing a social studies test all day long, we did the social studies test from 9 to 9:45 and then in everybody's classroom. So even though I have a math classroom at that time, everyone was taking a social studies test from 9 to 9:45. And then after 9:45, we ran all of our core classes. So today classes were 45 minutes instead of an hour, but the whole testing, everyone tested.
And we save the testing schedule for larger tests. If it's just a vocab quiz, something like that, we just run a regular schedule and do it in class.
And something else that I think is unique that our schedule allows us to do is, it was really Monica and Charlie who started this, is that they would kind of swap students, speaking of testing. So if, students didn't do well on a test or something like that, then they would identify the students who maybe need some reteaching and have to retake. So maybe those students would go with Monica, whereas the kids who did well, then they would get to do an extension activity and go with Charlie. And so once they started swapping kids and we saw how seamless it could work, then, a lot of us, if we were able to, we started to, take those chances and see if we can work those into the other content areas. So that's been successful too, because then the students, even though they have their core teachers on their teams, they also kind of get exposed to different teaching styles from being with the other teachers. Like the one time Melissa and I were doing a literary analysis, and we're like, instead of just teaching this, over and over again all day, we should block off the cafeteria. And then we took all of our classes in at the same time. And Melissa and I taught, like our A and B blocks together at the same time. So they would get the same instruction, but, there might be some parts of the literary analysis that I felt, stronger teaching. So I would do that. And then Melissa would do other things. So it just was nice to kind of have larger groups, and then they could have like a work session in the afternoon. So I think those were other ways that we started to build that trust too, and just see how we can make things work just by swapping kids. And as Julie had mentioned before in the trailer, just, kind of co-teaching, but with your counterpart. So the kids would, see that, yeah, they're doing the same thing in Mrs. Schultz's room that they're doing in Mrs. Bakari's room. So that's helpful too.
Do we want to go ahead and talk about Colt time, how we have that scheduled? So what we do with Colt time, which is an intervention enrichment period, we have each day assigned to a different teacher. And so we always start off, it goes from 8:20 to 9. And we start off with some activity, like if it's social studies day, Mr. Schaefer will provide an activity or something that the students need to do. And before they work on anything else during that time. And as an intervention specialist, I try to match up my intervention day with whatever teacher it is. So language arts day, I do my language arts interventions, and math day, I do my math, and so on. Anybody want to add something?
Yeah, so we also are able with our Colt time, we work as a team and we say, okay, if it's a science day on Tuesday and I'm wanting to pull a certain group, it's hard when you pull a group when you also have other kids in your room. So depending on the kids that I need to pull that week, I will call down and I'll say, hey, I need lists A through B. And then those 20 kids will come to me, and then I'll send the rest of the kids that I don't need, and I'll disperse them into the other classes. That way I can have the specific kids that I'm needing to work with, and then my teammates just take the rest to watch over them during Colt time while I have them working on another activity without me.
Well, and like today was our social studies test for Team Fiesta. And so we just switched up the Colt time so that it matched up so our kids could do a review during that Colt time and then go straight into their test. So it goes back to that flexibility too.
And I got to give a shout out to our parapros. We have had the same parapros now for 2 years. Oh, maybe 3 years. One of them. But they have kind of embraced that whole idea too of the flexibility. And I don't think we'd be quite where we are without them, because they will, especially during that Colt time, they will go ahead and they'll cover somebody's class, and, or they'll, hey, I just need this kid to check with organization, and can you just do some time repeated reading with this kid? And so we have some great parapros that have embraced our super teaming and kind of will do anything that we ask them to do.
And then the other thing that's nice about that Colt time is if we feel like we need to pull all the students together to do some sort of redirection or, talk about behavior, talk about expectations, we can use that period during the day as a way to kind of get all the students together, or even if we just wanted to do it team by team. But it's nice to, again, have that flexibility that we can, use it however we see fit. I guess, does anyone have any questions? I feel bad. We don't want to bore you guys just like sitting here. If there's anything that we could answer.
Can you talk a little bit? Can you talk a little bit about why you applied to be OMLA Team of the Year, and what were some of the benefits that came from that?
That's a good question.
Well, it started with the Fiesta team. We had applied the year prior. And once you get us a little competition, we're we're all about it. So we didn't get the Team of the Year that year, but after that, we were the super team with the trailers, and we're like, not going to stop now. So we kind of got our groove as a team, I'd say 2 or 3 years ago, and we've just been building on it. So we felt like we were at a point where we could really share a lot of things that we found work for us. And I think one of the big things was Brian Madigan, our former principal, was very big about, we need to use this block schedule. We need to be flexible. It shouldn't just be you go to this class and every day is the same. And that took a little bit of thinking outside the box on that and seeing how that would work for us. But once we started figuring it out, we started to realize it's kind of unique. It's not something that everybody's doing. So,
Yeah, and to answer your question, that only lasted for last year, thankfully. But with those trailers, it started kind of becoming a joke because Team Fiesta, as Andrea said, the year before had, gone through the process of applying for Team of the Year. And then because the 8th grade was teaching out of trailers, it kind of became a joke of TOTY, T-O-T-Y, teaching out of trailers, y'all. That's what we told everyone that it stood for. But we're like, you know what? We're going to make it stand for Team of the Year, because the trailers, what was it, guys? Did we get in the day before school started or 2 days before school started? They didn't get them actually fully set up until like the day before the students were actually coming. So we would all just sit and hang out in the media center.
Yeah, I left school at 4:30 the day before the kids came, and they were still getting the trailers ready for us. And I mean, not that you want to hear about the disasters, but then we started the day after Labor Day, and I was there on that Labor Day Monday, and it had rained, and there were rivers running through the trailers because the windows didn't seal. So it was just a crazy start to the year. I think we embraced the craziest and we went. When we first applied for Team of the Year, though, it was our principal was Chris Yacko was our assistant, and Brian Madigan was our head principal. And they were the ones who actually pushed us and said, you need to be recognized. You need to be recognized. So they kept pushing us. And even though we were like, yeah, I don't know if anyone wants to hear this, they encouraged us to speak at OMLA that year. We had pretty good feedback when we spoke about our schedule at OMLA. So we're like, okay. And pretty much when you present us with a challenge, we're going to try to find a way to make it happen. So we don't like to lose.
I think a key for us too is, even though it became a joke that we were out in the trailers, we really tried to still make it a fun learning environment and almost like an extension of the building. So it might have taken us a few weeks once we finally got in there, but we did extend it as if it was a decoration in the classroom, but just outside.
Yeah, and we would still hold our team challenges where we would do like trailer relay races as a way just to have some fun. Obviously, we had to maintain our 6 feet and everything. So yeah, we came up with a competition that we could have among the Team Fiesta and Whisk Takers and the different trailers, and just try to let the kids have fun, because like we said, they were just stuck in the same room all day, every day. So it wasn't the same, experience that we would have liked them to have if we were, in the classroom or a regular typical school year. But we did get a lot of good feedback at the end of the year that even though the kids were in a unique situation and in the trailers, they enjoyed, the attempts that we made to try to make it seem like a more normal year than it actually was.
And going back to, applying for Team of the Year and thinking about being Team of the Year, I think it presented us with a challenge, and it kept us, like, if anyone's out there thinking about, I think we could be Team of the Year, apply for it, because as it kind of makes you reflect on everything that you're doing and why am I doing this? And everything that we did, we knew that we were going to have to tell people this is why we're doing it. So we would reflect on it. We'd have some pretty deep conversations about, you know what, this is what's best for kids. That's why we're doing these things. And that's why, and I guess being Team of the Year too, and sharing this tonight is, if we're finding some things that work, we want to share them with people. Just like I said, if anyone has any great ideas on how to get these kids organized, please send them our way. And we are always peeking into other things, like 6 of us went to OMLA this year. We came back and we were already stealing things that other people came from. Our exit interviews came from Revere Middle School. We kind of just, if we see it and we're like, oh, we like that, we're gonna take it. We do Think Outside the Box Thursday, which I think Aaron got from Instagram, where the kids are given part of a picture and they have to finish up the picture. We did Typing Tuesday. I don't know if Monica came up with that on her own, or we kind of, we see somebody with a theme and we're like, oh, we're going to do that because we think that's best for kids.
Well, and the other thing too, he mentioned, like, what do you get? What did we get out of this? I think the two things that a lot of us got out of it, I know for me for sure, is there's a lot of things that we can do as a team that helps us meet our needs for OTES. Whether we're doing different types of Google Forms on how to get to know kids, or all of these different weeks of the exit interviews, things like that, and communicating with parents over those kind of things helps us meet some of those needs. But I think on the other end of it, that that I know has made a big difference for me personally is just being recognized that somebody thinks what you're doing is meaningful. You know, nobody ever comes to you as a teacher and pats you on the back and say, hey man, you're doing a great job. And so to have the state come in and people come in and observe and see what we're doing and come to us and say, hey, you guys are knocking this out of the park. Good job. I think means a lot to me, and I'm sure everybody else that, you know, on our team.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, it's like when we're doing these things, we're living them every day. So to us, it's kind of just like, it's what we do. So when people come in and point out to us like how differently we might do things, you know, that's like, like how Brian said, like you very rarely get, you know, praise as a teacher. So it was cool to, you know, be recognized twice, you know, for Team Fiesta, because we applied the first year and we didn't get that, but we still got a component award, which was awesome. And then, you know, for all of us to work together in a unique situation and be recognized for definitely the challenges that we had, you know, last year during the COVID and, you know, 6 feet apart year. So yeah, for sure. Definitely getting that recognition is awesome.
And can you talk, it wasn't a hard process, correct? You say you talked about the site visit, the application, which is due on March 2022. So if anyone's interested, the application is there right now, but you talk about just the work that went into applying to be Team of the Year.
So we did a lot of the work during our super team meetings, which we meet every Friday as a super team. And we started to put together the slideshow that you see attached here. The first year that we did the interview, it was actually an in-person interview. And so we had more tangible things that people could see and kids that they could talk to and stuff like that. Last year, since it was a virtual interview, we had just more of our slideshow. And it wasn't, I mean, it's stuff you're doing. It's stuff that you want to tell people about. It's probably stuff that you've already put in social media somewhere and are shared with other teams. And just all you have to do now is organize it into one slideshow or something to share with the world and tell them, like Brian said, you know, get that recognition that you deserve, because we are all working our tails off. I'm fortunate that I work with these guys, and somebody asked a question about going back to teaming. I think even if our school got rid of teaming, I can't get rid of these guys. I need these guys every single day. So I don't see us, even if our school went away from teaming, I still see the 8th grade figuring out a way that we would have a flexible schedule.
Yeah, definitely. And I know it was said before, but I mean, we are lucky in the fact that we do have principals who challenge us and encourage us to try things. And they're okay with it failing, but they're not okay with us just doing the same thing the same way over and over again. So even though Melissa and I have taught 8th grade language arts for the last few years together, we have not done the same thing twice every year. You know, we're always changing things just based on what we're seeing the students need, or you know, kind of basing things off of the other classes. You know, like if social studies is teaching something, then we might have literature, something that goes along with that. So that is the nice thing about, you know, our flexible schedules, that we can kind of just change things and make it work however we want. So it's nice to have that support from the administration. And even if you're not sure if you have that support, you know, if you start making little changes and taking small chances and, you know, explaining why you're doing it, then I think you'll eventually get that support from administration.
I don't know that this ties into anything we were talking about, but one of the fun things that we did this year, morale is down. Like, it's rough. We don't have subs. We're constantly covering other people. It's interrupting our team time. And I know that we're not alone, but we just decided one day that we were going to kind of pay it forward. And we did a toddy takeover one Monday morning. We came in, we all had different breakfast things that we set up in our teacher center, and we took over the office. We kicked the entire office staff out and said, go, you're having breakfast. The principals, guidance, secretaries, the custodian, our parapros, we took over the study halls that they were monitoring. Now I'll tell you, when I walked in and the secretary said, well, I need subs for all these people, find them. And she walked out, I was like, oh, are you okay? But we do things like that. And we've done, you know, soup that as a team, we see the need in the building of a morale thing. So we've done, let's have a Super Bowl. And we've all made soups and put them in the media center. And you start to see people kind of catching on to that. So we did it to the office staff. And the office staff last week paid it forward to our essentials who have been doing a lot of the subbing duties. But I'm going to give us a pat on the back because that started when we walked into the office that day and said, it's a toddy takeover, get out. And we gave up our personal plans that day and kind of experienced how the other half lives. And our plan is to do that again. So I don't know that there's anyone from Cloverleaf on here, but our plan is to do that again sometime and go do one of our other grade level counterparts. So I might go teach 6th grade math one day and say, get out, go, I'm teaching for you today.
And the reason we did the tidy takeover was because our principals surprised us. They had sent out an email saying that they were going to do a clap out for fall athletes. And so, you know, we're like, oh, okay. We're like, why is it a random time? Why is this like randomly happening? But we're like, okay, we'll just do it. And then once it was the time for the clap out for the fall athletes, the principal came over the PA system and actually called all the 8th grade teachers out. And she had orchestrated this clap out for us. So they had like the marching band, you know, like in front of us, and all the kids lined up giving us high fives. So it was cool. And as Julie said, you know, we were kind of just like riding high on that recognition. And because of that, we're like, you know what, it's a good feeling. We want to make other people feel recognized and appreciated. And so that's why we're like, it's very easy for us to bring in breakfast stuff and give up, you know, our personal plan period and, you know, use our personal plan in the afternoon instead of team, and just show that, you know, we appreciate all the hard work that the office has to do. And then when Brian and I had to start taking over the phone calls, that's when we're like, oh man, was this a good idea or not? But it was nice to see. And then as Julie said, it's nice to see them paying it forward, just because, you know, as we said, it's nice to get that recognition when you hardly get it. And especially when it's just been crazy couple years.
Other questions for Team Fiesta or whisk takers tonight? And you guys, you did share your PowerPoint, which has so many great ideas and resources there. And I really appreciate you sharing all the many things going on. And I love the last story. You know, November is a month of gratitude. And if any year is a year that we need to support one another, this is the year. It has been tough for whatever reasons, COVID, subs, just getting back to life normal. But it's those little things, just as you pointed out, that your principal started, you know, pushing that forward. So from OMLA, I just really appreciate you spending some time with us this evening. We don't get to go out and do site visits as much as we want to, right? Because it's hard to get subs, it's hard to go visit one another. So this is a way for us to continue to share, and we're going to continue to do that as an organization. I do want to mention that we want to recognize the great things happening around the state of Ohio, whether that's a team of the year, or you're doing something with service learning, or you have a student who should be recognized. Now is the time to be thinking about that. Those applications are due after the first of the year. And we would love to have so many applications that, you know, we do need to have a bigger venue for our award ceremony. That would be wonderful. We want to recognize folks for doing great things. So again, go to our website. All the information is there. And we'd love to be able to visit you, talk with you about the great things happening throughout the state of Ohio. One last note, we will be back in January. We know December is going to be really busy. So we are going to take the month of December off from virtual PD, but then we'll come back in January and we'll have one every month from there. And so hopefully you'll be able to join us for our future virtual PD sessions or at one of our regional events that will be happening throughout the state. So any last questions before we let you go just a couple minutes early, and so you can get to bed, because I know we got to get back up and do this whole thing all over again. Any other questions for our wonderful team of the year? Wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a great Thanksgiving break. And we look forward to having you back with us for our next virtual PD on January 19th.
Yeah,
Have a
and
great night.
one more thing, all of our
Oh.
emails are on that slides presentation. So if anyone wants to contact us individually, feel free to do so. But don't sell yourself short. Make sure you apply for our Team of the Year.
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you, Erin. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you.